Low weld. Low weld. Alive. Cool. Okay. Alright. Where were we? So, Black Knight Unicorn. Any one of your unicorn cards would be destroyed. You may sacrifice this card instead. So we're gonna want a trigger that only happens if one of your own unicorn cards is targeted for destruction, and then cancel the action. Huh. Um, let's call entity destroy. Um, I'm sort of thinking back of Hearthstone and cards that uh, would take a destroy action. Like I wonder if there were cards that prevented destruction in Hearthstone. I know there was what's his name? The Paladin legendary that would sort of steal damage done to the hero and apply it on himself, and that was a pain to actually implement. Um, hmm. So the other issue with this is I'm wondering if there's cards um, in Unstable Unicorns that would actually do something when a unicorn is actually destroyed, right? Because this is when the action happens but hasn't resolved yet. This is almost a nay card, right? Like, let's call it the entity destroy for now. So targeting, so we're gonna want zone play. That's kind of implied. I'll put it anyway. Cards. So this would be unicorn. And I guess it's actually okay. Like, you could just have the Black Knight unicorn in play and have it like be given the choice to sacrifice it instead of destroying it, and that could actually be useful, right? Like, say there's a trigger that only happens when a unicorn is destroyed, but not if it's sacrificed, right? You actually prevent the trigger here, because this doesn't say if any one of your other unicorn cards would be destroyed. That's actually pretty cool. So any unicorn in play for the player, right? Um, So that's the targeting. So the action is going to be a cancel action. Like, so the sacrifice. So first of all, May. Uh, then we do a sacrifice. Like, it's actually very similar to this. We can copy paste this. May sacrifice self, then action. Let's call it like this would be cancel the current destroy action, right? I'm sort of um I'm sort of wondering, once we write code to actually simulate this, what's it going to look like? To actually cancel the current action, right? Because we're sort of we have to be in a stack. This is a really tough one because this is going to basically dictate how we're going to implement stack resolution. Hmm. Then again, I could also, right, because if there's multiple actions in going on, like we could also have targeting for the actions themselves. We'll leave it there for now, and I'll just do the next one. Annoying flying unicorn. So for the record, I am actually just pulling random cards from my deck, so I'm not doing them in any particular order. 38, annoying flying unicorn. I could be pulling the text from a database, but I just want to get this going, to be honest. Choose player. That player must discard a card. If this card will be sacrificed or destroyed, return it to your hand instead. So this is so if this card would be sacrificed or destroyed, return it to your hand instead. This is a very common common text which is on all the flying unicorns in the game. So this is a unicorn type magic. So we're gonna be like copy pasting this a lot. I also suspect that we might do some sort of shorthand once, because that text is literally going to be on 20 different cards or something. So, and it's actually going to be a mouthful to implement. So we're talking about something very similar to the Black Knight Unicorn, where the uh, we're catching the destroy action and the sacrifice action. Um, this time not with a not with a choose, but you actually have to return it to the hand. I also wonder if barbed wire triggers. So barbed wire. The text on barbed wire is. Oh yeah, it would trigger. The text on barbed wire is each time a unicorn card enters or leaves your stable, discard a card. Okay. Um, I can't remember top of my head because I don't know all the cards by heart. I can't remember if there's any card that triggers specifically on sacrifice or destruction, but not on bounce. Anyway, so we'll have a trigger for this, and so we'll have two triggers. So we have the usual when this card enters your stable. Oops. There we go. So when this card enters your stable, you may choose any player. That player must discard a card. Didn't I do something like this? Yeah, back kick. Choose any player, return a card. So when I did this, I had some issues figuring out how to sort of have the player chosen be active throughout multiple actions. So I have like nested actions. So I have an action which is a list of uh, first there's a bounce, then a discard, and that action that contains both actions has me choose any player. So that includes the current player, right? That includes the owner of the card, and I refer to the chosen player as this, which is sort of a weird thing which I had implemented in Fireplace. In Fireplace, I would sort of do like a chain of events. So I had like a discard random card, then I don't know, like summon this, and this would refer to the argument of the previous action, which was sort of the return of the previous action. Yeah, I know comments are not permitted. Yeah. This is going to be a common pattern, so we'll need something for it. What were we actually doing? flying unicorn. So the action is going to be targeting I'm gonna copy paste this for now. So the action is going to be targeting players any choose one. And this is on the trigger. And same as this earlier, we just gonna have we're just gonna have a discard action alongside the targeting, so this is an action nested inside an action, basically. Okay. Now, the second part of this is if this card would be sacrificed or destroyed, return it to your hand instead. So could do it as I'll just do a generic sacrifice or destroy trigger, simply because it's going to save me a lot of copy pasting, because it's going to be exactly the same sacrifice, return to the hand instead, destroy, return to the hand instead. And this is, as I said, a very, very common card text. So sacrifice or destroy, we have to cancel the current, sort of the current death. So action, this is actually a problem I had in Fireplace, of coming across cards which would, there was a, what was it, Anubarak, and there were a couple more that would basically prevent their own death. And the way Blizzard had implemented those is through sort of a special tag that sort of dictated, oh yeah, there was Malorn as well. So they had a special tag that dictated where the card ends up on death. Which was sort of a super hacky thing, and in Fireplace I could have done something prettier, but then again, this is sort of right around the time where I stopped working on it. So we're gonna have a bounce action. Targeting so targeting self, basically. And now, like, have the same problem as with Black Knight, where I implemented like cancel action, but actually this is more of a hmm. So let's say um, we have like targeting event targets, event source. Well, let's call it source. Um, so action um, prevents destroy. Um, so it's called prevent destroy um, would be sort of a an easy way of saying, okay, this car is now immune. It is like let the destroy happen, but it won't actually have any effect. Meaning like it also won't trigger any like the destroy is basically nulled out in the code, right? Um, and we call it the same for sacrifice. Um, card self. Uh, this card would be sacrificed or destroy, return to your hand instead. So we're going to have a bounce, and we're going to have a prevent destroy, targeting self. Yeah, that works. Yay. Cool. Next card. Retarget. Retarget, let's find it. It's 57. So retarget says move an upgrade or downgrade card from any player's stable to any other player's stable. So that sounds super simple, um, but I'm actually pretty scared of this one. Um, why am I scared of this one? So, the play action is going to be um, we're basically going to be moving a card. I don't think I've used move yet, so let's just call it move. Um, and there's actually many actions which are a type of move. Like bounce is move from current play to current hand. Uh, draw is move from deck to the owner's hand, and so on and so on. It's easier to reason about if we don't try to make the interface too generic, I found, and actually give those keywords. Even though I've been extremely verbose for, like for example, when this card enters your stable is as common as the battle cry keyword, and we got a whole thing of like triggers on enter targeting targeting that card into play and then performing an action. I will probably, once the engine is actually up and running, I will probably do something about that and make it simpler. So we're saying we're gonna move action from any player's table to any other player's table. So the reason I'm scared of this one is there's two choices to make. We have to choose two players, one which is going to be sort of the source zone. Actually, no. We have to choose a card and then choose a player, a target player. Okay, that sounds better. So, targeting targeting is going to be cards upgrade, downgrade, players, any alright, so we can't be moving to the same player's table. I could take the lazy route and just call this like the move is always illegal, like you have to, you can't be performing a move in place. Not sure about this. I'm really not sure about this. It feels a bit lazy to just say, oh yeah, but the move is illegal. And the reason it feels lazy is because it actually says any other. So the card itself in the game makes it illegal. Like, I guess the question to ask is there any card in this game which would let you do an in-place move? And would it ever matter? Like, I'm just sifting through the deck here. This Dominatrix Whip is an interesting one. If this card is in your stable at the beginning of your turn, you may move a unicorn to any player's stable to another player's stable. You cannot move the unicorn into your own stable. I guess it's a choice, so you might just not do it, right? It's a tough one. Let's call the move illegal for now. I'm just making that call just to be able to move on. So move, targeting cards upgrade or downgrade to any other player's stable. So I think we need to give like a move argument here. Um, go to zone play. Players. Any. This. I am almost certain this is going to be problematic, calling this illegal. But that's fine. Next card, the Great Narwhal. Oh crap. Uh, so here's the Great Narwhal, and that is ID 51. So it's a unicorn type, magical. So, as usual, unstable enter trigger. So let's call this action search. Targeting let's give targeting a name filter. Let's, so this is kind of silly because Unstable Unicorns is a game that, as far as I know, has never been translated. And the way you would implement a card like this in in a digital game, you would most likely not be matching on the name because that is a pain if you're going to localize that game. Suddenly it no longer works on when you're in Chinese or something. So name filter. Let's actually make an enum for this. The reason I'm making an enum is there's actually a few cards like that that give you a name filter. So alright, so name filter narwhal, zone deck. That's going to be important. There's I don't think there's any card that lets you like search an opponent's hand for a name. But I still want to do the distinction because there's no reason not to. So search the deck. Then shuffle the deck. Right, that can just be its own action. there's only one deck. We're fine with this. So search, I think, do I do a search? Do I do this as one action? Search and add to hand. Again, feels lazy. Because I mean, what am I doing being worried about what cards may be added in the future, right? Like, we could be doing like a card like search the deck for a bad card and add it to an opponent's hand, right? That feels like a silly card that would never happen. So search and add saves me having to do nested actions again, where we search something and then we add the result of that search to the hand, where we have to target. Uh, we have to create a new target here, right? Alright, I'll call this one done. Two for one. 59. 2 for one. Sacrifice a card and destroy 2 cards. Simple one. Magic. So play. So sacrifice, targeting cards. Players self zone play. And then is important. So what I've been doing here is I can I'm able to insert like keywords in place of actions, which I'm sort of imagining the engine will read actions one at a time. It hits then, and it knows that this action can only happen if this one did not fail. And may, the second keyword is may. So may, oh, look at that. I actually forgot to add it here. So if I encounter the may keyword, doing the following action is the player's choice. There we are. We have it implemented here. So a good example is Black Knight Unicorn. If one of your unicorn cards would be destroyed, you may sacrifice this card instead. Right? So may sacrifice, then prevent destruction. So on play, action destroy, targeting. So this is really any card. Destroy. So destroy can never happen in the sources stable, which I think I will make. Like same thing with sacrifice. Sacrifice can only happen in the source stable. So this is redundant, and the worst part is I'm sort of being inconsistent here. Like yeah, I don't need this. Destroy counts 2. The way I had implemented count in Fireplace was actually kind of nifty because it was a DSL, so I would do like draw times 5 would do the action 5 times. That was like draw self for the current player. Sorry. I actually forget. It might have been owner. Anyway, I would multiply the action in order to make it happen multiple times. This count here, like according to the rulebook, the resolution of actions sort of always happens all at once. So like this entire thing happens all at once. There's no I mean, they say that. I don't entirely believe it because I would actually have to see this in action. Okay. Yay! Cards you play cannot be made. So many. Cards you play cannot be made. That's sort of interesting because I already have a cannot be made flag, which is on Super Nay. Right, this card cannot be made. So I think I can just do an aura. So the aura is going to have targeting. So targeting cards you played. So let's leave this for a sec, and the effect is going to be as right. So it's going to be apply flags cannot be made. Targeting is a good question, right? Like, do we target the hand? Do we target the play zone? There's this question of where are the cards when you play them? Because you play them somewhere, right? Um, and the thing is, like a unicorn, you're always going to play into your own stable, but a downgrade, you're going to usually play into another player's stable, right? And an instant, you're going to play just straight up on top of a different card or on the stack. So I think this I think this means I need a new zone. I need the stack. Right? That actually makes sense. Um because the stack would be where the zones are where the cards are before they go to the targeted zone. Before they go to their destination basically. Um So targeting the stack, but actually, so this is important. The zone is the stack, um, but players self, because it's only the cards you play. They cannot be made. Huh. Um, okay, so Rainbow Unicorn 27. Rainbow Unicorn. Um, just Rainbow. Straight up going to copy paste this stuff. Card type. This is a unicorn. Unicorn type. Magical. So when this card enters your stable, you may bring a basic unicorn card from your hand directly into your stable. We got our usual trigger here. So when this enters the play zone, your own play zone, so may bring a basic unicorn card from your hand directly into your stable. So this is going to be a summon. Cards unicorn type basic. Choose one zone hands and player's self. So how do we read this, right? When this card enters your stable, so trigger on zone enter, the play zone is the stable, cards is self. When this card enters the play zone, your play zone, play yourself, you may bring this, which is a basic unicorn from your hand self hand into your stable, so we'll call that summon. So summon. we may just make it a move action. Because we could have a card that says you may bring a basic unicorn card from your hand directly into some other player's stable. I don't know why you'd do that, but you could if you had a reason to. I don't think there's cards like that, but that seems likely enough that I will make it a move action. Like, we don't have a summon action at all. And I don't feel like there's a need to make one here. So the nice thing about the move action is, as we said earlier, we have two. So we have a target, which is going to be zone player's self. That feels good. Alright, I'll do a couple more and I will stop the stream because I need a break. So, magical kitten corn, I'll do this one later. Extremely fertile unicorn, Jesus. What was the ID? 23. Fertile unicorn. So unicorn type, magical. Oh, so that's actually interesting because I've not implemented the beginning of turn at all yet. And when I say implemented, I just mean it's the first card that actually talks about this. So this is a beginning of turn trigger, but I kind of want to do a shorthand for this. Then again, maybe not. Yeah. I won't for now. Turn begin. Do I have? No, these are all game phases. Turn begin. So on beginning of turn, action. So here's sort of the question, right? Because so far we've been implementing triggers. We've not. I'm thinking about this part of the text that says if this card is in your stable at the beginning of your turn, that's is there something I need in the data definitions to implement that? I don't think so. because I get the feeling that triggers always only ever happen when the card is in play. Um, well, more specifically, like a turn begin trigger can't happen on a card that's not already in play. So this actually feels like one of the English is more verbose sort of cards. Like this is kind of implicit, I think. So on turn begin, you may discard, which is going to be action discard. Then, actually, so if you do, I need to read. If a card says then, you may only perform the second action if you successfully perform the first action. If a card says if you do, only perform the second action if you choose to perform the first action. If a card says and, you must perform both actions. I'm having trouble grasping the difference between then and if you do. Oh, does that mean extremely fertile unicorn actually allows you to discard 0 cards if you have 0 cards in hand, then bring a baby unicorn? That's because the rulebook specifically says if a card says if you do, only perform the second action if you choose to perform the first action. Wait, but you can't choose to perform an illegal action. If you have a card in your hand that requires you to perform an impossible action, you may not play it. Huh. Sometimes, however, the effect of a card in your stable or a card requires you to perform an impossible action. Well, it doesn't require it because it says may. If this situation occurs, disregard that action. I feel like it would be crazy to me to have 0 cards in hand and just say, yeah, but this still triggers and I'm just going to bring the baby unicorn for free, and then play the 1 card I draw to still have 0 cards the next turn and keep doing this stuff. Like that is crazy overpowered, and it doesn't feel right. Let me see if it's in the FAQ on the site. I don't think it is. Unstable unicorns FAQ fertile. No, it's not. I'm going to go with an assumption here that if you do is equivalent to then. I mean, I could straight up get fancy and use keywords that really reflect the card text and sort of just turn the card text into a pre-parsed text, sort of. But yeah, nah, that doesn't sound fun. So if you do, you bring a baby unicorn card from the nursery directly into your stable. So bring directly into your stable is actually a thing. Right. So cards which are brought into the stable rather than played aren't on the stack. is basically what the rule. Yeah, that's basically what the rulebook says without getting into the word stack, because I don't think that's ever used. Um, so I think that's just a move action, right? If I search for directly, if I search for move, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this is decently consistent. Although, I mean, if I wanted to really be consistent, this would say directly to any other player's table. But I'm happy to use the keyword move. So action move targeting. Um, so zone nursery. Um, yeah. I'll make it a choose. Um, because I mean, it doesn't matter for the nursery. The nursery is always visible and it's um, always kind of possible to just say, hey, I'll bring not the top card, but any card I want from the nursery. I don't know if there's a point because yeah, I'll just call it choose one, and we can special case the nursery. Like if we do a UI for this, we can special case the nursery so that like a choose one is actually just always random from the nursery or always the top card or whatever. Um, I don't really think it ever matters. Um, so move targeting zone nursery choose one. Two players self um, zone play. All right. Okay. I'll call it here actually. This is uh, this is a pretty good one to finish on. Thanks for watching. Bye.